Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Avodah's first ever Partners in Justice virtual celebration. My name is Cheryl Cook, and I am the CEO of Avodah. And I want to emphasize, this isn't only the first virtual celebration, it's the first national celebration. We have over 300 people who are joining us tonight from around the country. And I think that there's probably more. There's probably people sitting on one device with many people. So many people joining us tonight from New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, New Orleans, Kansas City, we see you, from San Diego, Michigan, Florida, and many other places. One of the bright spots of this moment is that we can gather together across geography to celebrate Avodah. We have so many people from across our community here, core members, fellows, alumni of our programs, Avodah staff and former staff, parents and family members, members of our advisory councils and members of our board, representatives from partner organizations, including many of our not-for-profits and other Jewish organizations, supporters, and friends of Avodah. Whew, long list. Thank you for all being here. So you're all muted and I'm speaking right now, but I really do want to hear your voices. If you have something to say, please type it into the chat, as I see some of you already are. And don't be shy. I want to hear your voice, your support, your shout outs in the chat. If you have any tech needs during this celebration, please chat tech support and someone will be there to help you. So I'm thrilled now to warmly welcome you. It's really great to see all your names on the RSVP list and know that you're here with us tonight. I hope first that you're all doing well and your families are well. I want to acknowledge the amazing staff team. I can't put enough exclamation points after that, who put this event together tonight, and the incredible Avodah staff who have continued Avodah's work. Many are on this call now. I'm really privileged to work with you. As you know, we typically hold our Partners in Justice events in cities around the country. It's a time for us to honor the big, bold changemakers who find ways through their work to pursue justice and inspire us all in the process. It's a time for us to see old friends and meet new ones. But most importantly, it's a time to celebrate Avodah. Avodah has been training up young Jewish leaders to work for a just and equitable country for 22 years. It's pretty incredible. We all know how important leadership is, especially in this day and age. We need great leaders who stand up for and side by side with the most vulnerable in our society, who can listen and be curious about other people's experiences, and who can be creative in solving problems. We're celebrating our incredible Avodah community. I know all of the people in this virtual room are working and wishing to advance justice in our country. And I know that you, along with me, believe that in order to do so, we need to invest in a generation of Jewish leaders eager to take the torch. So here we are in 2020, and everything's been turned upside down. While this pandemic is hard for everyone, we can see from the data that those who are most vulnerable are being the most impacted. Those who are poor and those who have no safety net are particularly suffering. And the numbers of people out of work is only growing. Our unemployment numbers are now at 20%. Apparently, we haven't seen numbers like this since the Depression. So tonight, we're honoring all of you who have stepped up and are stepping up at this moment. There's so many talented, creative people stepping up right now to help fill the many needs in our society. Many of you are on this call. We're honoring the 1,300 participants and alumni of Avodah who continue to work on poverty and work toward justice. We're honoring the 140,000 hours our current corps members have given towards service and justice this year. Thank you. And close to 2 million hours that our corps members have given over the years. It's a pretty incredible number. We're honoring all the people who are on the front lines, our healthcare workers, social workers, farm workers, delivering workers, the list goes on. And we're honoring all the people who are standing up for the most vulnerable, working on food insecurity, healthcare, homelessness, people in immigration, working with people in immigration and detention centers or prisons, to name just some of what is happening around the country. Many of you do this for work, and many of you do it through your synagogues or local communities. Thank you. We're honoring our philanthropists who understand that this work takes resources, and thank you for continuing to give and even giving more. This is the rainy day we all knew could come. And we're honoring those who are using this moment to think about big change, helping to prepare or shape policies to address the inequalities and inequities in our country. These existed before the pandemic. Because there is a path where we come out of this in better shape than before. Our goal is not to go back to where we were in February, but to look forward and help build a future where all people are treated with dignity, where all people have access to basic human needs, and where all people have opportunities to thrive. That's what Avodah is about. So thank you. I'm so grateful to be in this community with you, and thank you for all you do. So tonight, I'm naming the Avodah community as our 2020 partner in justice to each other, because today we truly are the partners we all need. We have a big hour ahead of us. We're so incredibly honored to be hearing from David Gregory, a renowned journalist who has a particularly unique perspective on the realities we're facing as a country. We look forward to hearing from him in just a bit. But before I launch into our great lineup, I want to share one story of many that stands out to me as a truly Avodah moment in this crisis. When the pandemic hit, one of our DC placement agencies, Pathways to Housing, realized they had a huge need for masks. They serve a population of housing insecure or chronically homeless people. And because many of their clients are already vulnerable and immunocompromised, it was urgent to get a big haul of masks to them quickly. Pathways was fortunate to receive a donation of 900 bandanas, which could be turned into masks, but they needed a lot of hands to make them. The executive director immediately remembered that their Avodah corps member, Anna Bergson, lived in a house of young, social justice-minded people who could provide those hands. Anna rallied everyone still living in the DC Bight to get working on this. Over the course of just one weekend, they sat in the yard, which joins the two DC houses together, and sewed all 900 masks together. It was never a question for Anna of should we do this, because ours is a community of people who come together and stand up when we are needed. She knew she had her very own partners in justice, and they were living and working right beside her. Thank you, DC Corps members. And I want to note there's similar stories from all of our bites. We truly have superstar participants. This is who we are, and this is why I'm proud to be part of Avodah. And that's why there's so many stories like this, some of which you're going to hear tonight. So to kick things off, we're going to roll a video that gives you a window into our bites across the country, shot entirely by our corps members in the past month. So please enjoy this home video.
Hi, my name is Maya Solevi, coming to you from my beautiful home office here in the Washington Heights Bight, and I'm proud to be part of Avodah because over the past 2 months, I've helped my placement, the Hebrew Free Loan Society, distribute over $300,000 in interest-free loans to low and moderate income New Yorkers who have been financially impacted by coronavirus, and that is definitely something to be proud of.
I'm proud to be in Avodah during this crisis because I'm right now planning a phone bank from home, calling voters in Illinois to pass a graduated income tax to provide the resources that we need for our communities here.
My name is Shelly Peskin, and my job is to renew people's DACA applications, and I'm still able to do that from home. I'm seeing about 2 clients a day, and I'm still able to help people and do social justice work.
Hi, my name is Gabriel, and we're here at the Met Council Fulfillment Center where I work and where we help distribute food to people in crisis. I'm so proud that Avodah has given me the opportunity to provide such an essential service, especially for New York's most vulnerable people in this time of uncertainty.
I'm proud to be a part of Avodah because even during a global pandemic, I know that I have a supportive community filled with people who teach me new things every day.
This is Mar from the NOLA cohort. I just wanted to share how meaningful it is to be in a program with so many wonderful other core members. I am constantly very inspired and learned a lot from them. And it's also, I just feel so fortunate to be in a job where, and for all of us, we are all in jobs where we're in positions to be forming really meaningful relationships and friendships with community. So thank you to Avodah.
I'm Zoe. I'm Nara. I'm Esther. We're proud to be a part of the Avodah community because we love supporting our community from inside and outside of the house.
I am particularly proud and grateful to be able to support everyone at Legal Counsel for Health Justice and provide resources for the clients and the kids and families we serve.
I work for Cabrini Green Legal Aid, and I'm proud to be helping an attorney file clemency petitions to try to get people out of Illinois prisons during COVID.
I work for Heartland Alliance as a housing case manager, and right now I'm providing case management services over the phone.
Hi, my name is Caroline, and I'm a current core member working in New York City at the Adams Street Foundation, the nonprofit affiliate of the Urban Assembly School for Law and Justice. I'm so grateful to be a part of the Avodah community during this time, to have the support from my housemates while I work from home, the alumni network, which has been giving me so many different resources and allowing me to share it with all the students and families I work with. And the staff during this time have been absolutely incredible. I feel so cared for during this crazy, chaotic, unprecedented time, and so grateful for the community that Avodah has connected me to, so thank you.
I love watching that video. So fun to get to watch that again. We're so proud of our core members and justice fellows all around the country who continue to do essential work, many on the front lines, to make real impacts during this challenging time. And thank you for all of you who helped make that video in your own homes. It's really appreciated. Now I'm excited to introduce you to 2 of our program participants this year. You'll hear from Molly Oberstein-Allen, who's one of our Justice Fellows in Kansas City. Molly's a writer and community activist who's worked on environmental and food justice issues, and she's currently active in the local immigrant right movement in Kansas City. But first, you'll hear from Julie Schreiber, one of our Chicago Service Corps members. Julie is currently working at the National Immigrant Justice Center in Chicago and helping LGBTQ immigrants gain asylum. She's also social isolating, along with 12 other core members in Avodah's Chicago Bayit, as they all work virtually on critical justice and poverty issues across the city. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, everyone. How will we remember this time? I ask myself this every day. During crises, or unprecedented times, as our bosses love to call them, we often feel a pressure to make meaning of the experiences, perhaps to make them a little more bearable to live through. The easy answer? We'll remember this time as an intimate merging of our work lives and our home lives. 10 weeks in quarantine with 12 of my housemates has shown me who drinks the most coffee, who wears the same pajamas every day, who spends all day on phone calls or Zoom chats, and who's found time to sneak in a few novels or bake a loaf of bread or 2 of sourdough. But more importantly, our emergency quarantine lifestyle has shown me that the commitment each one of us has to working from home and meeting our clients' needs is the same commitment we have to supporting one another. We are all dedicated to meeting the needs of our clients, coworkers, and fellow core members in whatever crazy, creative, and unprecedented ways we can. During work hours, we sign out each other's bedrooms for meetings and conference calls. We attend one another's virtual campaigns and canvases, and we refer our clients to each other's organizations. After work hours, we play guitar and sing summer camp songs, binge watch bad TV, and never let a birthday go uncelebrated. And the reason why we take this approach to both our work lives and our home lives is because of a shared belief among us that life is undoubtedly enhanced by community. And this devotion to community for each of us is inseparable from our Judaism. Each one of us was brought to this house and to this service here because of transformative and illuminating experiences we had in our Jewish upbringings. These experiences showed us that communities are lifelines, families, and linchpins of identity and belonging. And the gratitude to have been, and to continue to be, part of such robust Jewish communities is exactly what has compelled us to reach outside Jewish spaces and stand in solidarity with a variety of underserved communities in Chicago. So, how will we, members of the Chicago Bayit, remember this time? We will remember that during a dangerous pandemic and an episode of global isolation, we embraced the crucial Jewish tenet of community. We dressed up for Tea Party-themed Shabbat dinners and made watercolor prints for our walls. We tried our best amid unprecedented hurdles to meet the swelling needs of Chicago's undernourished communities. And we learned and relearned and relearned some more that even in the worst of times, life is always best lived together. Thank you again for having me here today and for supporting this work. Now I would like to pass the mic to Molly.
Oh. Hi. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Cheryl. When I became an Avodah Fellow, I was excited to deepen my knowledge about Jewish views on social justice, and I was excited to build community. What I didn't expect, and what I never could have predicted, was for the fellowship to embolden me to start participating in my community in a meaningful way that was unprecedented for me. Through meeting people involved in work that I care about and finding out more about local organizing ecology and Jewish social justice movements more broadly, I was able to plug into an issue that matters deeply to me, immigration, and start advocating for full legalization and decarceration of all immigrants here. In the past year, I've helped revive Never Again Action Kansas City, an organization of Jews and allies whose core motivator is that never again means never again for anyone. I've become involved in other local movements too, and everywhere I turn, I see friendly faces I met through Avodah. This fellowship has helped me learn the ropes of organizing, and it's helped me find a way to harness a passion of Tikkun Olam instilled in me by my parents and a dozen years of Jewish day school, as well as I hope a speck of human decency. Avodah hasn't just helped me start organizing, though. It's deepened my Judaism, both personally and together with others. Over the past year, I've found myself independently and inexplicably inviting Judaism into my life in a way that I've long resisted. And in turn, I found it spilling out of the compartments of Shabbat and study and into other parts of my world. Whether that means helping create a social justice Haggadah or using challah baking as an excuse to work less on Fridays. This year, I've hosted Shabbat dinners full of Avodah Fellows and other community members. And I've built the kind of Jewish community I never knew I'd been missing all these years. A community full of people engaged in a Judaism that values questioning, speaking up, and wrestling with what's right over unwavering faith and obedience. That recognizes that ritual means nothing without action, and that is insistent that each one of us, though we cannot finish the work, is beholden to keep at it. Avodah continues to help me along this narrow bridge we walk by giving me a flashlight with which to light the road ahead and great friends along the way. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Molly and Julie. I'm so moved by what you both said. Really great to have you speak tonight. And I loved that. I assume that was the whole Chicago Bite behind you, Julie, yelling out. Thank you for that, everyone. Great to hear. So now we have a really special treat. We're thrilled to be joined by David Gregory, who is here to share some of his perspective on this unusual moment, as well as interview one of our incredible Avodah alum. David Gregory, now a political analyst on CNN, is best known for his nearly 20 years at NBC News, including serving 6 years as the moderator of the program Meet the Press. He was chief White House correspondent during the entire presidency of George W. Bush and a staple of network special coverage, anchoring countless major news stories and serving as the face of the network. Gregory is also the author of the critically acclaimed memoir, How's Your Faith?, in which he explores his own Jewish and multi-faith upbringing, as well as raising Jewish children in a multi-faith family. He is also a donor and supporter of Avodah. Thank you, David. And we're so honored to have him join us this evening. David, welcome. David, welcome. You missed my glorious introduction of you, but I really just want to say I am so delighted you're here right now. I said a lot of things about maybe your career, other things that you do, but I really, I want to emphasize a thank you for being a donor of Avodah as well. So everyone knows all about you and your great career, but thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. I'm happy to join all of you, and I know it's not under the best of circumstances, but I give you kudos for your creativity and your willingness to get together and to honor the organization, which I do have a connection to primarily through Esther Letterman, who is a wonderful rabbi who was part of our community here in Washington, D.C. at Temple Micah, which I think many of you may know is not just a wonderful spiritual home and a wonderful place of community, but I do think it's a community that thinks a lot about Jewish identity through the lens of social activism, and which is what I know is really the mission of Avodah. And I think it's important, as somebody who is who's written about this and who as an adult has spent a lot of time thinking about what it means for me to be Jewish, what it means to be a person of faith, what it means to lead a Jewish family, an interfaith family. Social activism is a big part of it, and I think Avodah's work is really important and animating for people. I mean, I think that I see it in my own life. I see it in the lives of younger Jews who are trying to figure out what is this sense of identity. What does it mean to be Jewish in their own lives, as opposed to how they were brought up, family traditions, culture, which are very important, but what gives them a sense of real identity. And for a lot of Jews, it can be God, it can be a spiritual relationship, but to be honest, that can be difficult among Jews to have a deep spiritual connection, especially among the non-Orthodox. And so, particularly as someone who's part of a Reform community, understanding the role that social activism has played as a definer of Jewishness, from civil rights, immigration reform, access to healthcare, all of these areas I think are vitally important. I was sharing with one of the organizers a story that brought all of this home for me as a dad, as we were preparing our daughter. We have an older son and we have boy-girl twins, and so in preparation for Ava and Jed's B'nai Mitzvah, they were preparing their devars for their parshas, and Ava had been assigned Kedushin, and so we were talking about the content of Kedushin and love the stranger as yourself, for you were once a stranger in the land of Israel. And she, at about this time, she was fulfilling a service project through her school, in which she, as part of a small group, went down to the Texas-Mexico border to learn about not only, enforcement issues, during the Trump administration and the talk of a wall and more robust enforcement, but also to work with nonprofit groups who are doing this kind of activist group that Avodah does through compassion, through loving the stranger, loving the neighbor. And they were working with those organizations. And my daughter had this compelling story that she told about a man who came in and had almost no possessions, had everything on his person, and walked into this organization and mistakenly gave away all that he had, thinking it was actually a place that would keep it for him. And they were able to get through that confusion and get his belongings back. But she just was struck by how desperate that feeling must have been, to have nothing, to have come into America and having fled your home and to have nothing. And I was talking about that trip with her and talking about Kiddushim, and I said, don't you see how these two things come together? Don't you see how the tradition off the page of the Torah matches your life experience and your compassion? That is what it means to love the stranger as yourself. You've experienced that on the border, the need to welcome the immigrant, to welcome the stranger. And she had this epiphany, like, wow, I see it, I get it, it all comes together. That to me was a beautiful moment. And she had a wonderful davar. And to me, it was the strength of thinking about social activism as a cornerstone of Jewish identity, Jewish education, and just kind of living our tradition and trying to do in the world what God expects us to do, to be the people we can be, the individuals that we want to be. Lastly, I wanted to touch on, an aspect of a kind of activism, but it's certainly a kind of responsibility. I mean, we're going through something unprecedented with this pandemic and our response to it. And it certainly highlighted the very important role that journalists are playing during this time. And there's lots of aspects to this. But one of the things that I was thinking a lot about is how important it is for good journalism to expose weakness in society, in government. There is a critical accountability function, and it can be in the prosecution of war. It could be in the implementation of a program that's meant to solve a societal ill, or it could be in response to a natural disaster, or in this case, to a global pandemic. The question of preparedness, response. And it's, Warren Buffett, I think, is attributed to, or is credited with the quote that when the tide goes out, you see who's not, who's standing there naked, on the shoreline. And I think what we've seen in the journalism in response to this pandemic is indeed a focus on exposing that weakness and forcing society to look at what areas need attention, where we have to rebalance, where we have to focus our attention and our activism to close certain gaps. And I think it's an important function that that journalism has played. So again, it's great to be with you. I want to turn to the conversation that I get to have with Rachel Sumek, who is the founder and CEO of Swipe Out Hunger. She's an amazing young woman, made the most amazing by the fact that she and I are both from the Valley in Los Angeles. I always say it's not easy. It's not easy to be, a downtrodden Jew in Southern California in the San Fernando Valley, and very few people understand this in the way that Rachel and I do. And so we have this in common. We actually went, she's much younger than I am, of course, but we went to rival high schools, and we had a wonderful conversation, not just about her great work, but more importantly, like exactly what elementary school she went to, what streets she lived on, where she went. So we had all of that background, but her organization is terrific. Swipe Out Hunger, it's a leading nonprofit in addressing hunger among college students, which I think is such an interesting group to be focused on, serving 1.8 million nourishing meals at over 100 universities She's been recognized by the Obama White House as a champion of change and has other honors for her work. Immediately after graduating from UCLA in 2012, Rachel joined the Avodah Service Corps doing her service year in Chicago. And so Rachel, I got your last name correct, did I not?
Perfect.
Oh, good.
All those years in LA, you must have gotten it down.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Rachel and I had a chance to talk last week, and it was a terrific conversation, and I want to be able to share all of that with you. First of all, talk a little bit about your time at UCLA, what you identified as an area of need, and how that got you into the program.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. Avodah is such a huge part of my journey. So to be able to reflect on the 7 years since and that year in this amazing house in Chicago is a huge honor. And to join you, David, my fellow 818 Valley kid. So as you mentioned, I had the privilege of also going to UCLA. And when I was there, a few friends and I, really the challenge started with us having this extra money on our meal plans, which if we didn't use by the end of the semester, the school would, not give back to us. It was non-refundable money. And simultaneously, we lived in Los Angeles, where we saw so many people in our community going hungry, and so many of our own friends on campus who were surviving on ramen noodles. And we knew that that wasn't the best meal to have before a final, or, struggling with granola bars and making that last throughout the day. And simultaneously, we had access to these amazing dining halls, and it didn't make sense. So we launched Swipe Out Hunger in an effort to say, if there's a resource somewhere and there are hungry people somewhere else, why don't we develop a solution to really match the need?
Rachel, can I just interject one point? I mean, anybody who's gone to college understand it's not always, years of bounty. So plenty of us have had, ramen noodle dinners and all of that, but you're not talking about, kids we might see on the dorm who are not eating a big dinner. You're talking about a different level of food insecurity, which is usually defined by someone, doing without at least one meal on a daily basis.
Exactly. Nationally, many reports have shown that 1 in 3 college students regularly skip meals. And for anyone who is a little surprised by this stat, we can think about all the students right now who are stopping by their schools to pick up meals. From kindergarten through 12th grade, 30 million students rely on those meals as their primary meals of the day. And what happens when that student does well and goes to college and suddenly doesn't have that resource? Food should be the last reason why someone doesn't graduate.
Before you move on, talk more about the service year. Talk a little bit about, kind of your own Jewish journey growing up in Los Angeles, the role of kind of identity, or I guess what kind of inspired your Judaism, and where did that role of service and ultimately activism play for you and your family?
Yeah, it runs very deep in my genes and in my blood. I'm the child of immigrants, people who escaped Iran, which was no longer a safe place for Jews. So my parents raised me with values of tenacity and resilience, and this interesting balance of knowing that there was at times scarcity, and yet this community that was always there, that supported each other, that, sometimes it was too much in your business, as a Jewish community tends to be, but that was also a gift, right? That we all were supporting each other. And so I often say that Persians are very hospitable, and I think that sense of generosity of, when we cook in my Avodah house, anyone who's watching knows that sometimes I would cook, and what I would cook was so big that the ladle was another pot. And so we naturally cook and welcome people so much. And so I think that with this work with Swipe Out Hunger, it's the same sense of, if our communities and if our society have so much, why are we not thinking innovatively enough about how to connect those resources to people around us? It's often that ingenuity that's lacking.
It's interesting to me, and some of the work that I do around hunger. I'm on an organization's board called Martha's Table here in Washington, D.C., which deals with food insecurity as part of its mission. And what we're seeing right now is so overwhelming in terms of people going hungry around the country. There is a sense sometimes that you're never really solving this problem. You're just trying to make the problem a little bit better. Have you seen an uptick in that in your work?
Yeah, well, I'll say that a lot of it has to do with my year, even in my Avodah year, right? All these idealistic young people move into a home together because, I mean, for me, it was, I wanted to change the world. And I said, the way I do that is by going into the trenches and being in direct service. And what that year taught me was a lot, right? I learned how the housing system is broken. I learned how getting access to SNAP is so difficult. I learned that poverty really does shackle you. Even as we help people get jobs, we saw how broken the system still was. And now, as I move on into the world as a leader, that experience has so informed the way I view issues, to see them as systemic, as yes, like maybe what my program does is helping introduce a meal program at a university. But what starts to happen is we involve leadership at that university, and they become more educated and they become advocates. And the culture on campus suddenly changes from one that's about, you know, homecoming and frat bros to one about a beautiful food closet. And so I think that the perspective that I even got early on from that year was, don't be disheartened by how difficult it is day by day, but understand how that day-by-day work and how the people you work with really change those systems if you have a long-term view.
And so, Rachel, break down a little bit about how your program actually works on a college campus and who generally you are helping.
Well, right now it's been very sad because so many of the students that we're getting responses from are saying things like, you know, I lost my job and I have to pay summer tuition and I can't. And so that means I can't graduate on time because my job loss means I can't enroll again. And suddenly this young person's life is completely thrown off just because of a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. And so who we serve typically is someone who might be on the brink of poverty or is in poverty, grew up in a home where they were receiving, you know, the free breakfast and lunch at school, or maybe it's a middle-class person who didn't get enough financial aid and whose parents have a tight budget. A lot of our programs help identify students on campus who have need. And, you know, we introduce them to a case manager that can help support them. But the most important part of our work is that it's run by other young people, right? I'm the leader I am because of the experiences I had. And so we want to give other young people on campus the chance to advocate for this program on their campus and become leaders in the process.
And so on a particular campus, then what form does the food aid take? You were talking about access to meal plans.
Yeah, I mean, students are swiping into dining halls and having warm meals sitting next to their friends. It's that sense of community that we know is so important.
And is that, in other words, are you giving credits, or other people who are involved in the program giving credits to those who would need it?
Absolutely. So we have partnerships with food companies and with technology companies where students can take their ID cards and they automatically have credits that they can enter the dining hall with. I think that what I learned in my year at Avodah is that you have to be adding humanity to everything. Creating a separate line for people to go get help didn't feel like something that I saw my clients who I built relationships with would want. And so we want to integrate services for everyone together.
Right. I mean, one of the things we're doing in this gathering is to really underline the role that Avodah plays in inspiring young people like you to do this great work. Talk a little bit about that, what you learned from Avodah, the role that Avodah plays in this kind of work and how it shaped your career.
Definitely. I love talking about my own work, but I'm very excited to talk about Avodah because I think what it was for me was, you know, I grew up in LA my whole life. And suddenly someone gave me an invitation to come to a new city and live with, I mean, the people I live with to this day are some of my best friends who I text with. It's like been 8 years, right? 7 years. And we just had a reunion this weekend and it was so great to see everyone. And so I think living in a home where everyone goes to a direct service job and then you come back and you share a meal or you like decompress on the couch together. And one person says, I loved sitting across from my client and hearing their story and meeting their kid. And I'm like, oh, all I was thinking about the whole time is how broken the system is. And so I feel like that year really taught me that creating change is different for everyone. And it's a matter of us identifying what's the activity that really resonates for us. And it's not always being a case manager. It's not always being a social worker. It's running a business that has some sort of social impact component. Several, like 3 or 4 people from my cohort are doctors now. How incredible is it that they chose that path for how to make a difference, especially in this time. I mean, my year was a lot of fun. We had 2 kitchens, a meat kitchen and a vegetarian kitchen, and so much of that year has influenced who I am today.
Finally, Rachel, the need that you're addressing is so acute under any circumstances, more so now as you look about the prospect of an uneven return to college campuses, colleges in financial difficulty, let alone others who are trying to send their kids to college or themselves to college. What do you think you're facing?
We're facing a lot of campuses who will see drops in enrollment for the reason I stated, if students can't afford that tuition, if they and their families have lost jobs. We're going to see a lot of students choosing to attend community college, staying close to home. And we're going to see a lot of stories of resilience. Students who, despite all odds, are connecting. You know, a lot of our services now have been about connecting students to services in this moment, getting them enrolled in those public benefits. And so how are students being resilient? And I've switched recently from, in my email saying, I hope you stay healthy, to I hope you stay strong, because now we're starting to be in this moment when we can choose. We can't, as they say, you can't really choose your circumstances, but if we all support each other and find ways to stay strong, then we'll tell those stories of resilience. And we're seeing a lot of students really step up, reach out and find innovative ways to make internships happen, to fill the gaps of jobs that they're losing, to really, show us that in the toughest times, when there's an obstacle, there's always a way.
Well, Rachel, good for you. You're a wonderful example, a fantastic spokeswoman, and certainly pride for the Valley. Go Valley girls.
Absolutely. Our reputation doesn't serve us, but you and I, David, are changing that story.
We know the truth. We know the truth. Rachel, great job. Cheryl, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel and David. David, I really appreciate your being here and sharing insights with our community. And Rachel, I'm so proud of the work you're doing. You exemplify exactly what we hope Avodah alum will bring into the world, and many do. Passion for creating change, the ability to step up and make something happen. You've been a great friend to Avodah, and I really appreciate you both being here. And now, to close out this wonderful evening, so fast, I have the pleasure of introducing Avodah Board Chair Lynn Wasserman. Lynn has been Avodah's board chair for the past year, and I have to say I couldn't ask for a better partner in this work. She is dedicated, strategic, caring, and as our whole board knows, she's damn funny. So Lynn, over to you.
I'm so happy to be here tonight. I would like to first, before talking about my prepared remarks, just give some feedback to 3 separate people who have privately messaged me to ask me if I'm actually wearing makeup. The answer is yes. I had David Gregory's guy fly down from CNN. He was fabulous. And I appreciate you noticing that I have mascara on and earrings. But let's go back to what I was going to say. I'm on this call from my home in New Orleans, where I'm happy to say that the only kind of illness I've had recently is a pronounced case of cabin fever. I'm just so happy to be with the Avodah community tonight, and I want to thank you all for joining us. 11 years ago, Avodah launched the Jewish Service Corps in New Orleans. Before I was ever involved with the organization, I saw what an extraordinary impact Avodah had, not only on the nonprofits in our community, but on the clients that they served, and also on the Jewish community in particular. Seeing this profound impact, I decided to get involved, and now I'm proud to lead the national board. On behalf of the board, I want you to know how absolutely thrilled we are to be together tonight. One silver lining of all this social distancing stuff is that we have been forced to learn new ways to be together, and I'm so happy to get to share this night with people from DC, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Northern Virginia, Park City, Utah, and a whole bunch of other really cool people I met in our chat room. It's really great to talk to you, and it almost makes my cabin fever go away. I also want to share a sentiment that I would guess many of you are feeling tonight. that I'm so happy to be a part of Avodah at this moment. As I listen to our impressive core members, fellows, and alumni this evening, I am amazed at their leadership, their passion, and their commitment. We always knew this about them. We always knew our participants and our alumni are incredible leaders. But it's at moments like this, times of acute crisis, that really shine a highlight upon who our true leaders really are. It highlights those people who have been fighting for change before this crisis and who will keep fighting after it has passed, when it will be needed more than ever. And when I think about the fact that there are 1,300 Avodonics, you've only met a few tonight, but 1,300 Avodonics across the country, I just feel so proud to be even a small part of the community that supports them. We also couldn't do it without you. We are so grateful to those of you who have generously made donations. Many gifts have even come in this evening as well. I can't thank you enough. If you are moved to make a gift now to support Avodah, there is a link in the chat box that you can use to do so. I truly believe that Avodah is needed now more than ever as our country prepares to weather this storm, and we know it will only get worse. And gifts of all sizes really do make a difference. And with that, I'm going to introduce our closing segment. As you know, we asked you all to submit messages about people in our lives that are rising to this moment. We've been blown away by the responses honoring rabbis, doctors, nurses, organizers, teachers, and so many more. We have put together a slideshow to honor these heroes in our lives, many of whom, by no surprise, are Avodah alumni themselves. As you watch, we're excited to feature one of our incredibly talented alumni, Rena Branson. Rena was in the Service Corps in New York in 2014 and 15, where she worked at Footsteps. She's the founder of a Queer Nagoon project, which in non-pandemic times organizes monthly singing circles at Jewish services in jails, as well as events for queer and trans folks in New York and Philadelphia. She's among the few women who specialize in publicly teaching and recording Hasidic melodies, making them accessible to the wider Jewish community. She also composes original tunes for liturgy. Rena spent this past year studying Jewish music and prayer leadership full-time in the Rising Song Residency, and will serve as a cantor at Lev Ha'ir in Philly starting this fall. And it is such a treat for all of us that she is lending her voice to this segment. Thank you all again, and please enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rena. That was beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for everyone who sent in dedications. We're going to post that so that you can see that again and have time to read it. We'll send it out. I really want to thank the entire Avodah staff team who put this event together, Alex Willick, Tessa Savalas, and Shara Serfati, and a whole team supporting them in various ways behind the scenes to make everything run smoothly. And most of all, thank you all for being here tonight, for being our partners in justice, and for being part of a big national Avodah community. Stay safe, stay strong. Thank you, Rachel. And we hope to celebrate in person soon. Good night.